transitioning into the roles now. All right, well, I want to start by saying thank you to the people of Michigan for putting their trust in me. I am humbled and I am excited about getting to work. We've got 55 days between now and the first of the year, and we are hitting the ground running starting today. But I do want to acknowledge that yesterday truly was a historic day. We saw so much change happen, so many people come out to vote, a record turnout, and I think that we see what happens when people show up at the polls and make their voices heard. And I feel really good that the voters of this state voted to reject bigotry and hate. They voted to reject the divisive politics that seem to be permeating everything, to reject agendas that don't actually put our kids' education first or fix problems. They voted to reject attacks on women's health and the health care that we all have come to appreciate here in the state of Michigan. And we voted for clean drinking water and safe roads, affordable car insurance, and a level playing field. And I feel so great about the result and so determined to start building partnerships with my partners in the legislature. That's going to be critical. I also want to acknowledge we're very clear about that there is one governor at a time, and I am the governor-elect. I'm not the governor of Michigan until the 1st of January, and we want to give our due respect to the outgoing Snyder administration, and I'm looking forward to sitting down with the governor later today. Yesterday's election is a clear mandate that the people of Michigan expect, want, and deserve leaders who can work together to solve problems. And I've always said on this campaign, and I will say it throughout my term as governor, that I want to make this a place where our kids stay, our families can thrive, and other people come too for opportunity. That's the great legacy of this state, and I'm determined to work with everyone who wants to make sure that that is the future of our state as well. So the real work begins. We will announce later today the transition team that will be coming out a little bit later, and like I said, we've got just 55 days until January 1st, and so I'm excited about starting a transition and building the team that I will take in with me into the governor's office. So, for the people of Michigan, for those of you who voted for me, I thank you for your support. For those of you who didn't vote for me, I want you to know I'm still going to be working for you. I will work for everyone in this state. Our governor's office doesn't belong to a person or a political party. It belongs to you. And you are the ones that I'm going to work for every single day as your governor. So, to those whose support I have yet to earn, I want you to know there is a seat at my table for everyone who is genuinely interested in solving problems. I know that we are at our strongest when we collaborate and where there is a seat at the table for everyone who wants to do that. So, with that, I'll conclude my remarks, and I'm very interested to answer questions that you may have for me or for my Lieutenant Governor-elect as well. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you talk about the choice of Mark, for instance, to be the transition team and how that decision was made?
There will be a lot more information this afternoon. I know that the early reporting about who's leading the team is out, and it is accurate, but we'll expand upon that this afternoon.
Emily.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about wanting to work with people. You're going to have Republicans as your legislative partners, as you call them. How much horse trading is going to have to go on to make your agenda work? And what will be the first several things that you intend to work with the legislature?
Well, I have served in the legislature. I understand that the legislature is a co-equal branch of government. I will give them the due respect that they deserve and will work very hard to build relationships with them. I look forward to commencing quadrant meetings very soon. The leadership elections will be tomorrow. So we'll know who the leaders of the 4 caucuses are, and I'll be reaching out to them to start building that kind of a relationship and maintaining it throughout the course of the 4 years. That's extremely important to governance. It's what the people of Michigan want and expect from us. As a legislator, I was able to cross the aisle and work with Governor Snyder on things like the grand bargain and getting the lights on in Detroit, but also things like Medicaid expansion. And I think that's a skill that I've honed over the years and that I'm looking forward to utilizing over the course of the next 4 years. We've got a lot of challenges, fixing the roads and cleaning up drinking water and closing our skills gap, I think are areas where we can find some common ground, because we know potholes are not partisan, and the education of our kids is something that we all benefit from. Chad?
What is your first legislative priority?
So I think when we think about the quality of our drinking water, it's something that is absolutely essential. You cannot live without clean drinking water. We are home to 21% of the world's fresh water, and we've got a lot of communities that can't drink the water coming out of their tap. So working on infrastructure in Michigan is at the top of the list. Of course, we'll be writing a state budget very quickly here and introducing it in the early part of next year. And so these are the first fundamentals that we'll be rolling up our sleeves and get to work on. Shannon?
Are you willing to put non-Democrats in your administration?
Absolutely. There is, I think, a need and an expectation that our government and the tables that make decisions in the state have real representation of them. I'm talking about racial representation, religious representation, political representation, as well as geographic and socioeconomic. This is something I've always been committed to, and it will be reflected both in my transition and in the cabinet.
Are there any Republicans that you're considering for the cabinet?
Not that I'm going to name at this moment. I will say, you know, I have talked with people like Joe Schwarz, who will be a part of serving a role, you know, an advisory role in the transition. But there are a number of people with whom I've developed relationships over the years that I am eager to, you know, have conversations. But we are about 8 hours into this, so I'll let you know. Yeah, Jonathan.
You said before that in terms of fixing the damn roads, what that looks like will depend on the makeup of the legislature. Now you know you're going to be dealing with Republican majorities in the House and Senate. Does that complicate things? Would you imagine user fees might be off the table? Is bonding more likely? Can you talk about that?
Well, I'm going to start sitting down and talking with the leaders of the respective caucuses. I'm hoping to sit down with them starting next week. We'll know the result of the elections. I think we know 3 out of 4 of them already, probably. But I'm going to start that in earnest as soon as the elections are official. And I think I'll have a better idea of what really is workable. My goal is to make sure that we have a dedicated source, and I need legislative partners to help me get that done. If they're not strong enough to do it, then I've always said I will go to the voters and go for a bond. But first and foremost, I want to sit down with the leadership and really talk about how do we fix this, because I know this. The result of yesterday's outcome, the result of yesterday's election, is that people really sent a very clear message. They want us to fix the damn roads. And I can't tell you how many Republicans and independents and people who didn't vote before who came over and helped me because I'm focused on infrastructure. And so I know that it's something that resonates from Gogebic County to downtown Detroit. And that's why I think we've got an opportunity to work on it. But those conversations will start in earnest at the end of this week, early next week. Thank you.
As it relates to Detroit, can you tell me what would be at the top of your list in terms of your engagement in the city?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I'm really excited about is that obviously I have a lieutenant governor who is a Detroiter, who's at the table, first African American at the table in the form of a lieutenant governor. And we're going to have a real partnership here. As we build the state budget, as we make appointments, the city of Detroit, the people who call Detroit home, are going to be a critical component to every conversation. Lifting people out of poverty, I know that that's something you're passionate about, MLive, that's something that I am as well. And that is the goal, is to increase and improve people's standard of living through increasing their and benefiting their personal incomes. And that's something that is going to be woven throughout the decisions that we make, both in terms of appointments and budget priorities. Yeah.
I'm talking to voters this morning, and obviously the ones that supported you, happy and optimistic. Those that didn't pointed out that they were worried about tax increases, their 401k, housing foreclosures. What can you say to them?
Sure. So, you know, I ran on a platform that I've always made a concerted effort to do outreach to people who aren't the standard traditional Democratic voter. We announced Republicans and Independents for Whitmer, and it had leadership from Milliken, Snyder, and Engler administrations. I did that intentionally because this is not, this is not a Democratic governorship. This is the Michigan governor. We are in this together, and I'm going to build coalitions, and so I understand people, didn't vote for me. I'm very eager to earn their support as I govern, and I think that they will see that I will be a governor for everyone in the state.
Would you care for a no new taxes proclamation?
No, I've never taken pledges. I don't believe in them. I think that it's pandering, and I think it's often just done to earn votes, and it really could hamper future negotiations and decisions and priorities. We're all paying a water tax if you have to buy bottled water. We're paying a education tax if you have to hire a tutor. We're paying a road tax when you have an alignment or new tires or a new windshield put on your car. So I think that we can be smarter as a state and solve problems together in a way that really improves people's lives. Yeah, Paul.
Last night, Michigan also voted to legalize marijuana. There are thousands of people in our state that are serving time for marijuana convictions. Would you envision yourself using some of your executive clemency power possibly to get
Expunge. Sure. So I think that the people of Michigan have said that for conduct that would now be considered legal, no one should bear a lifelong record for that conduct. And so yes, Paul, we will start taking a look at that and making some decisions and taking some action early next year. Yeah.
How will you work to oversee the implementation of the new industry that comes about because of the marijuana initiative?
So there are, a lot of states have moved forward. It is time for Michigan to move forward, and I will respect the will of the people. They've spoken. And so it's on me and to work with the Attorney General to ensure that we have thoughtful, regulations that we promulgate. And that's something that's really important to me. We can learn lessons from other states. I've already gotten some outreach from experts in states that have moved forward already so that we can avoid some of the pitfalls that they've encountered and do it smarter. And I think that's something that's really important. I want to make sure that our children don't have access to recreational marijuana, but I also want to make sure we collect those taxes and that they are spent as the voters intend them to be. Yeah, Scuba.
You've watched a number of governors as a legislator. As you watched them, what did you learn not to do?
Well, I think first and foremost not to assume that the legislature is a bunch of employees. They're not. They're a co-equal branch of government. And I think it's really critical that we build relationships. Quadrant meetings haven't been held as a regular matter since John Engler was governor, and that's something that I am eager to and going to make a regular part of my administration. Whether I can find common ground on issues with Republican leaders or not, we are going to sit and meet and start to build relationships. And I think when you talk, you can find common ground, but if you're not talking, you don't have any shot at it.
Are you willing to play like John Engler did, at times get tough with lawmakers to get what you want? Are you willing to do that?
Of course I am. The people of Michigan elected me to be their governor. I'm going to use every lever of power in the office to get the agenda accomplished that I ran on. That's what people expect.
So you're going to threaten lawmakers?
Okay, next question.
This will be the last question.
Simon?
Can you talk about how you'll work with Mayor Duggan to lower auto insurance rates in the city of Detroit? It's such a big issue here and among the highest in the country.
Yeah, so we have to lower auto insurance rates in the state of Michigan. I have put a number of values out there that I think are really important toward doing that. Number one, it has to be a real long-term relief for people. No temporary solutions, that doesn't fly. Number two, the insurance industry should not be able to arbitrarily increase rates on people based on non-driving factors. That's something that I've always consistently said. We need transparency in the catastrophic claims fund, and I do believe that we need to make sure that people that are tragically injured in an auto accident have the protection and the coverage that they need. And that's something that's a critical component for me as well. So these are all pieces of it. I know that the governor created an anti-fraud unit. I don't know that they put any more resources or people into it, but I think that's an important component of it as well. And he's taken some action in that regard. I think that's something that we need to definitely work off of and increase. So.
Gretchen, one more. The start with the meeting last night. Any thought about that? You're obviously on top of that email.
Jonathan, early on, someone asked me, are you going to run as a woman? And I didn't know how to answer that question because is there a choice? I am a mom. I'm a Michigander. I'm a lawyer. I am a former legislator, I'm a former prosecutor. I'm running for office against potholes that are tearing up our cars, insurance that is, costing our families, water that we can't drink, and schools that are in the bottom 10 where we used to lead the world. These are the issues that I'm staying focused on. I do think it was a historic night. We do see, Congresswoman-elect Stevens and Congresswoman-elect Slotkin changing the dynamic of who is representing us in Congress, and I think I'm excited about working with them, and I think, the more representation around the table that really reflects the people of the state, the more likely we are to get policies that people want and expect from our government.
All right, thanks
Yeah.
guys, but I want to more.
All right, thank you, everybody.